Back in high school, there was this kid who told everyone he was a demon. I don't even feel comfortable writing his real name, so I'll just call him Patrick. His actual name sounded like something out of Shakespeare. He was awkward, intense, and had this hollow stare that made even teachers avoid eye contact. Patrick wore the same faded gray hoodie every day, and he never washed it. He smelled awful. He wasn't tall, just average height, but he always kept his hood up and wore sunglasses even indoors. Eventually, teachers stopped asking him to take them off. Something about him just felt off. Patrick didn't have friends, but he'd randomly choose people and tell them, "You're adopted." It wasn't a joke. He meant it as a kind of protection. If he adopted you, you were safe from him. At least, that's how he explained it. He rarely adopted anyone, but I was one of the few. Looking back, it was probably because he had a crush on me. Another girl, Gabby, was also adopted by him. His interest in her was more obvious, and everyone in our group knew it. Still, we didn't take any of it seriously. We all just thought he was another troubled kid trying to stand out in a weird way. One afternoon, me, Gabby, Laura, and Luke were hanging out behind the school near the dugouts. The topic shifted to Patrick and his obvious crush on Gabby. We were laughing about it, and someone used his real name, which we usually avoided. Laura said it 3 times. On the third mention, Patrick appeared out of nowhere, standing on the dugout roof with a baseball bat. He didn't say anything. He just stared. I waved at him and he gave a small nod, then jumped back down and walked away. We all laughed it off afterward, but something about that moment stuck with me. It wasn't funny. It was chilling. A few weeks later, I was at Laura's house. We were upstairs talking, and somehow Patrick came up again. Between us, we said his name 3 times. Less than 10 minutes later, we heard the front door slam. Curious, we came downstairs, and there he was. Patrick was standing in the living room talking to Laura's mom. When she asked why he was there, he replied calmly, "I was summoned." Her mom knew him somehow and politely asked him to leave. He did, but Laura and I were frozen in fear. It was the second time he'd appeared after his name was said 3 times. We joked about it later, but we were both scared. We couldn't shake the feeling that something truly wrong was happening. After that, we started connecting the dots. Saying Patrick's name 3 times seemed to make him appear. It was too strange to be coincidence. From that point on, we made a pact. Never say his name 3 times in a single conversation. None of us really believed he was a demon, but we couldn't deny the weirdness anymore. Months later, our group was hanging out at Johnny's house. He brought up Patrick and, despite our warnings, said his name 3 times to mock us. He thought the whole thing was dumb. At first, nothing happened and he laughed at us. But a few minutes later, Patrick appeared, literally jumped over Johnny's backyard fence. Johnny froze mid-sentence, staring at him. We all went dead silent. Patrick just looked at us for a few seconds, then jumped the fence again and vanished. Johnny flipped out. He accused us of setting the whole thing up, but we had no idea Patrick was going to show up. We had begged him not to say the name, and now we were all shaken. Johnny kicked everyone out that night. He was scared, even if he wouldn't admit it. The last encounter was the worst. I was home alone for once, which was rare, and I invited a guy over I'd been talking to. It was raining outside, and everything seemed fine until he brought up Patrick. I immediately tensed up. When I explained the story, he laughed and screamed Patrick's name 3 times, loud enough to shake the windows. I begged him to stop, but he thought it was hilarious. The moment he finished yelling, the rain intensified, like nature itself responded. Then came a blinding flash of lightning. I looked out my window and saw a figure standing in my driveway, staring up at my window. I knew it was Patrick. I ran downstairs to lock every door, heart racing. I saw him again, this time in my front yard. I panicked, screaming, "I'm adopted," over and over, hoping it might protect me. Eventually, he vanished. But I was a wreck, curled on the floor, shaking. It was the first time I feared for my life. The next morning, after the guy left, I went outside. In the far corner of my yard was Patrick's hoodie, and wrapped inside it were some of my missing belongings, things I didn't even realize were gone. I was too scared to call the police. I decided to tell my parents after school, but the next day Patrick didn't show up to class. He didn't show up the day after either. Eventually, he just disappeared. No one knew where he went. No one ever saw him again. I still think about it. My parents still live in that house, and I sometimes wonder if he ever came back without anyone noticing. Some classmates claimed they'd seen him hiding and listening to people's conversations. That might explain how he always appeared at the right time. Looking back, I think Patrick was just a mentally ill stalker. Maybe he followed me and a few other girls around for years. That's the only way to explain everything. But knowing that doesn't bring peace. It only makes it worse. He could be anywhere now, listening, waiting, remembering every name we ever said.